Welcome to the next episode of Connect with Hecht, your guide to everything student life at Florida State University. I'm your host, Dr. Amy Hecht, Vice President for Student Affairs, and today we're talking about living on campus at Florida State. So I have two special guests, Czaja, our Assistant Director of Residence Life, as well as Johnnie Taylor, one of our resident assistants. So let's get started. So for both of you, tell me, what is it like to live on campus, and is it important for those of us students watching?
I think maybe I could speak to this, being the student in the room, and I myself have lived on campus going into my 4th year now.
Excellent.
It really is important, I feel, and especially initially for those first-year students, because there's really no other way to immediately get so connected into the community here at FSU and Tallahassee in general. Obviously, going to college for the first time can be very nerve-wracking. It's a new experience. You're in a new place with lots of new people, but I find that residence living is a really great opportunity to ease that transition and really allow people to make friends and make connections from day one.
I think the simplicity of it, of course, being on campus, you don't have to worry about commuting to campus and finding a parking spot. You don't have to worry about the difficulty of moving in off campus and not knowing what it's going to look like. You know that things are going to be set up for you and ready to go. And so to Johnny's point about connection, I think that a lot of what we know about college is that it's important to find those connections in the first 6 weeks of school. And our staff in the halls are dedicated to making that happen for you. And so that's one of the big benefits of living on campus.
So you talked about the staff, and you're an RA, a resident assistant. Johnnie, tell me, what do you do as an RA, and what are the other staff? Who are they that are living in the halls or working in the halls with our students?
As an RA, my main priority is to provide a safe, welcoming environment for my residents. Mm-hmm. Right now I'm an RA in traditions, and I have about 45 residents. And the first thing that we do to prepare for move-in is we check all the rooms, make sure they're ready for new students. I think that kind of creating that really welcoming environment is the crux of my job. Besides that, there's a lot of administrative stuff as well, of course. I work the desk and I help flow of traffic during move in and move out. So there's a lot of behind the scenes things as well, but I think the more front-facing parts of my job are the most fun. In terms of other staff that are in the buildings, we have DAs, which are desk assistants. They also work the desk. They work the desk during the day when the RAs are in class. RAs work the desk overnight.
Many of those watching are thinking about what it's going to be like to move in, decorate, live in our halls. What should they know in advance as they're purchasing things? What should they definitely not bring? But how do they make these spaces feel like home? And what can they do to personalize?
The number one suggestion I have about decorating your space is to see your space before you buy whatever it is you want to buy. The worst thing you could do, and it's not that big of a deal, but it's just a hassle, is buy a rug that's too big or buy a rug that's too small, or you bring a microwave and your roommate brought a microwave, and so now we have 2 microwaves and we only needed 1. And so a lot of those purchases, we suggest waiting until you get here to really get a lay of your room and figure out what you want to do with it, because the basis, the general room is going to be fairly similar across the board, but they're not all identical, right? So it's challenging to buy some of those things in advance. I think we see a lot of people bring rugs. We see a lot of people bring shelving units that they build and they use that for extra storage. We see people bring hutches for their desks, or they attach headboards to their bed to make it feel a little more homey.
And can they get their measurements of their room in advance? Do you give that out, or is that why you say wait till you get here, because there's some nuances depending on where you're housed?
The second one.
Okay.
There are some nuances depending on where you are housed. We do try to strive for kind of a standard across the board, but to be able to give you a dimension of like, For example, is my room going to have a windowsill or is it not? Because I really want to do some plants on my windowsill. The depth of a windowsill, or how wide my closet is. The things that are pretty standard are the bed lengths and the bed dimensions, and a lot of our dresser drawers are the same size, but some of the foundations of the room are different.
And what about hanging art or curtains? You mentioned the headboards. Like, how are they attaching these to the wall? What should they bring with them? And you mentioned buying things when they get to Tallahassee. So maybe in that question too is there enough in Tallahassee during move-in? And where can they shop when they get here? Because I imagine for some of our students that could be nerve-wracking to not arrive with all the things they may need.
My biggest pointer for that is bring the things that you'll need. So to your question about hanging things, command strips are always, a good go-to. Anything really that will avoid taking paint off the wall.
Okay.
And especially not drilling anything into the wall. We don't allow nails or drills or anything like that.
A lot of the walls too are not going to accept a regular nail. They're plaster or they're cinder block, and so you could try and it's not really going to work well. And so then when you think, oh, I'll just drill it in, like Johnny said, we would prefer you didn't. So command strips are a big one. I know a lot of folks visit Target in town. We have multiple Targets, we have multiple Walmarts, we have Amazon. You have a UPS store on campus, and all of our students on campus get a mailbox. And so you can have whatever you want ordered delivered to the UPS store on campus. And the UPS store will send you an email when your package has arrived, and you can go collect it. You don't have to worry about, being home to accept delivery at your room, or it's going to get delivered to the front desk. It's just going to come to the UPS store.
Good advice. So if you can't find it in town, you can always order it. It can be delivered. So for our students, many young people have not shared a room before. So they're coming to college for the first time, and they're going to have a roommate, likely. What do you see in your residence? What is some advice, and kind of how do you help students feel comfortable living with another person for the first time?
Yeah, I find that's probably one of the biggest hurdles coming to residence hall. Especially, like you said, if you've never had roommates before, maybe you grew up with siblings, but you're maybe not in the same room. My biggest piece of advice is trying to form a connection with them as soon as you can. I know on the housing portal, they'll give you your roommates' emails. When I was an incoming freshman, I emailed all of them, got their phone numbers, their social media, and we instantly created a group chat and already started making connection the summer before we moved in. I highly recommend that. When you get to FSU, I really recommend, just in general, making your RA your best friend. We provide a lot of opportunities for mediation if need be, but also opportunities for you and your roommates to connect and grow and build that friendship even more.
We get lots of advice, or lots of requests, actually, to have a particular roommate. Perhaps somebody they know from their hometown. What do you see in terms of predetermined roommates, or sometimes they get matched up if they don't select a roommate? Is there a better way to go about it? Is there a preferred way?
I would argue, and I don't have the statistics, but I would argue that the majority of students that live on campus have a random roommate. And the folks who are rooming with somebody from back home or that they grew up with, that is certainly the minority across campus. And so when we have people who are, making that new relationship, we have opportunities to establish those boundaries through something like roommate agreements. And so those kind of unspoken things that you may not discuss unless you're prompted to is what Johnny's going to ask you when you sit down for your roommate agreement, and really kind of putting those things out there. Did we talk about a cleaning plan? Did we talk about when are we going to allow guests over? All of those things are set up by you. And so, but if you don't have that conversation, then there's, some challenges there.
Cooking. You mentioned a microwave earlier. How much are students cooking, especially in that first year? Or meal plans? What does that look like? What do they have access to, and what should they bring or make sure their roommate is bringing so they can have the food that they would like to eat?
Great question. It really depends on where you live. For example, currently I'm an RA in Traditions Hall, which are our apartment-style residence halls. In those rooms, we have a kitchen built in. So it's really easy. It's at your fingertips. You can make whatever you'd like. In most of our halls, which are 9-month halls, our suite style, there is a communal kitchen on each floor,
Okay.
which you will share with several other students. In that case, I worked in Coffin Hall, suite style hall, for many years, and I did see them used frequently. They're really easy, they're kept clean by our wonderful facilities staff, and the amenities, they have a stove top, an oven, comes with a microwave, kitchen sink, so I think students are well equipped.
With the microwaves down the hall, do most students also have a microwave in their room and a refrigerator, or how does that work?
We provide the refrigerators in every room.
Okay.
Whether it is the apartment style halls, in which case they'll have a full size fridge, and our suite style halls, they have kind of the smaller mini fridges. So we do not, permit folks to bring extra fridges. We take care of that for you. As far as microwaves, I really feel like it's people's personal preference. We have microwaves on the floor, but when you go in a lot of rooms, people have their own microwave as well. So that's something. And in terms of other cooking equipment, you'd think about like an air fryer or something like that. Very common. We just ask that it's cooked in the kitchen and not in the room.
Okay.
And if it is in the room, it's just unplugged and not in use. And if you want to use it, take it to the kitchen.
What about candles? You mentioned not leaving things plugged in. Candles and other things that you might be accustomed to at home that are not allowed in residence halls.
So candles is a big one, and candles is one that we do not want to have in our halls. And even if you have no intention on lighting it, if it has a wick and can be lit, it's not permitted.
So not even the warmers?
No,
You don't want
so
the warmers either?
we don't want the warmers either. What we do suggest is, some of those air fresheners that you plug into a wall,
Okay.
or a diffuser. You can get some scent in there that way. But yeah, we do not want candles.
So when our students move in for the first time, walk me through what is move-in like? What should they be prepared for, other than it to be very hot? We know it will be hot.
The first thing that students can expect is the building is ready to go. We're ready for you when you come here to move in. The RA staff has been working for probably a few weeks now already to get the building ready. The facilities staff has been working for, I'm sure they never stop working, to be honest. They're great. And the first thing that we'll do is ask for your information. If you know your room number, if not, that's okay. We'll assign you your room key. You'll sign the dotted line, and then you'll be ready to move in.
Okay.
One of my roles in the department is coordinating move-in and move-out operations, and so Johnnie spoke to the in the hall part of it. Before you get to campus, you'll have signed up for a move-in time slot, and that will be delivered to you in your FSU email. We're going to give you a 30-minute time slot, 30 minutes to an hour time slot of when you're going to arrive, and that really helps us funnel traffic and not only traffic on the streets, but traffic in the unloading zones and at the elevators. And so you'll have a move-in time slot. You're going to have these gray moving bins that are available to you for free. You'll likely have a cooler of water bottles out there. And we have an opportunity for you to pull up, unload, and then move your car to a nearby parking garage. And really try to keep that unloading zone free-flowing so that we can get as many people in as we can.
So perhaps 2 or 3 adults unload into the bin, and then someone to move the car while the others bring it up.
Yes.
That sounds like a good plan.
So after move-in, they've moved in, gotten settled. What do they expect? Are there programs in the halls? Are there activities? And how do you help students get engaged?
I think, like Joe mentioned, we're told about this first 6 weeks. It's a really critical period for especially incoming students, and just so happens that those first 6 weeks have so many programs. Housing throws on a bunch of stuff, but also the FSU community at large. There's really ample opportunity for first-year students to really get connected. An example of that are the events that we host as RAs and also as the community complexes. RAs individually do an event or 2 a month, and the community-wide events that we'll have, that's for the whole community, those are also once a month.
Very good.
Johnnie will also host a floor meeting.
Okay, so I'll have a floor meeting when I first arrive.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Your RA is going to host a floor meeting, And that's going to be an opportunity for you to get all the information about living in your specific hall that you're going to need. There's going to be information about make sure you attend the first day of classes, and friendly reminders, but also an opportunity for you to learn about, hey, here's things that are going on in the hall and on campus. It's all part of that floor meeting agenda. It's usually the night before classes, so usually that Sunday night. We host it that Sunday night because theoretically most people, if not all, are here by that point. So I do suggest making it to that so that you can be informed not only about your hall, but about, engagement opportunities.
So they always swipe in to get into our residence halls. They'll have a floor meeting, they'll get settled in. Once they're in the groove of going to class and experiencing everything FSU has to offer, what role do you play? How do you interact with your residents?
I think the RA is, of course, a really fundamental role throughout the year. You see the most of your RA at the beginnings and ends of the year because we're doing the floor meetings, we're moving you in, we're checking up with your roommates. Throughout the year, we're still there. We're doing classes, we're doing what we need to do, and we make it a priority to be able to still continue to keep up with you guys, being the residents. I would say throughout the year, residents shouldn't be afraid to contact their RA if they need any help with roommate issues. We can set up those roommate agreements, have a little powwow moment. Facilities management issues, if something breaks, if there's a leak, if there's a scratch on the wall, your RA can help you submit a maintenance request. And any other issue that you could think of under the sun. If it happens in the residence hall, the RA can help.
So we have a tremendously talented new class coming in. Their academic scores are through the roof. Many of them, like we talked about, probably haven't had a roommate before, haven't had to share a room. What does studying look like? How those thinking about where am I going to study? What if my roommate is sleeping or is watching TV and I need to study? How does that work? And what do you tell first years?
I think that's a very real concern for a lot of first year students. Luckily, we have already predicted this and it's built into my job as part of the roommate agreement that we're going to talk about that. One of those sections is talking specifically about study time and really the general flow and routine of the day. At what points do you guys want to start winding down for the night? At what points is it, okay, I need to lock in, I need to do my homework? At what points is it, oh, it's our social hour, we can bring friends over? We talk about that in length at the very beginning so that we set expectations for the rest of the year.
All of our halls have lounges, whether that is, kind of in the lobby area, a little more public. Every floor has a lounge, some are a little bit more private. And so I always encourage students, if you want to get out of your room, that's fine, but there's not room for everybody at the libraries. We understand that, and we try to create spaces that are, conducive to studying, and it's not just the space, but it's the furniture in the space, and so we're constantly overhauling the furniture in those spaces. The other thing we have is 3 academic resource centers. And so those academic resource centers, if you're lucky enough to live in Jenny Murphy, DeGraff, or Sally, that's where those are at. If you don't live there, you can still use them. You just have to go to them. But if you do live there, they're right downstairs. And so those are staffed by our academic trainers. And again, another study space for you if you don't want to travel to the library.
And those academic trainers are tutors? Can they help you with your coursework?
Yeah, so we are constantly doing research on and working with the academic affairs side of the house on what are the most challenging classes that we're seeing and making sure that we're having academic trainers that are fluent in those areas. And so we're keeping up with those metrics to make sure that we're as helpful as we can in those spaces.
And we know that students that live on campus actually have higher GPAs that first year than students that live off campus. So obviously what you're doing is working. What about guests? If I wanted to have a friend from home spend the night, are you allowed to do that? And how do you go about that if you can? And how do you navigate a roommate that may or may not want that to happen?
Our guest policy is set by the roommates.
Okay.
And so we give you all the ability to choose for yourself how you want to handle that. And I would say for most people, it's a pretty simple process of communicating with your roommate. If you are struggling to have that communication point with your roommate, that's where someone like Johnnie can come in and assist that conversation. But I think the worst thing you could do is just assume your roommate's good with it and then allow it to happen, because then we're just opening up the opportunity for some disagreements.
We do have an overnight guest policy that no guest may stay more than 3 consecutive nights in a 30-day period. That's just to prevent cohabitation and, navigate some of that discomfort that might come with maybe your boyfriend is sleeping over every night and your roommate's having some troubles there. I always tell my residents, communication is key. It's a cliche at this point, but you're living together for however many months. If you're not able to express how you feel, then it might not be the most comfortable situation for you.
And at first, you might think you're going to be okay with someone. You just moved in, you're just meeting someone, you want to be agreeable, but as the stress of classes and you really get into a rhythm, you might change your mind.
Yeah,
and is
absolutely.
that something you help them navigate if they've realized something is no longer working that they did agree to?
Totally. I always tell my residents at the beginning of the year and when we do the roommate agreement that it's very flexible. It's not written in stone forever, that we can revisit and change things at any time if at any point in the year that things change.
We refer in housing to the month of October as I Hate My Roommate month.
Okay. It's not just Halloween. It is also
Halloween.
It's also I Hate My Roommate month, and really it's to your point that kind of 6 or 7 weeks has gone by. The honeymoon period is worn off. Classes are starting to really kick in, and the things that were kind of rolling off my back aren't rolling off my back anymore, and now I'm frustrated, and so that's where our staff can come in and help.
So Johnnie gets really busy in October. And so parents, when your student calls you, especially in October, this is a natural thing that happens, okay? And you are going to help them navigate through, and it's a natural part.
Yes.
What are the other cycles or common things that are part of that first year growth?
I think a big one that every college student can be thinking about already is burnout, especially toward the end of the semester, end of the year, when finals start rolling around. It can kind of sneak up on you. I really, really encourage you, again, to use your RA as a resource. And even if you just need to vent, if you just need someone to talk to, if you need resources of any kind, that's what we're trained for.
And you've been through it.
Yes.
I think one of the other cycles we see a lot are folks trying to balance their new amount of social time they have compared to high school. I have class here, and then I have 4 hours off, and then I have class here, and then Tuesdays I don't have any class, and so it takes a couple weeks to really settle in and figure out where I can spend my social time and how I want to spend that, to then also still showing up to class ready with my homework done, or showing up ready to take this exam. It's not to say that it's got to be 100% academics 100% of the time, but it can't go the other way either. Everyone has to find that balance.
There's an interesting adage I like, which is sleep more than you study more than you party, and party as much as you can.
Okay.
Maybe I should say that again. I think that's especially rings true for FSU students. We have a great campus life here, and there's so many opportunity for connection that sometimes that studying, and especially that's the sleep, can fall by the wayside. So.
Yes, I think college just in general is not known for some of the best well-being practices. All-nighters, greasy food. You hear about the beer and the parties, and then you're studying all night too to catch up. So making sure that you're prioritizing sleep and studying, that's why you're here, but make sure you have a good time.
Exactly, yes. There's a balance.
What advice would you give to students who might be watching, who are getting ready to come to Tallahassee, move in, and get ready for this experience? What should they know?
When you move in, push, not pull the gray bins.
Okay.
You might cut your heel and have to get stitches, not speaking from personal experience.
Yeah, not a good start.
No.
Not a good start to the academic year. Okay. Any other advice?
I have move-in on my mind because that's one of my big roles. 2 things, one to absolutely bring and one thing to not bring.
Okay.
One, bring a water bottle for yourself. It is hot, and we're gonna have some water bottles, but if you wanna bring your own and refill it, feel free.
And we have the refill stations.
We have the
in
refill
hall.
stations in all the halls. The one thing that you should not bring is the family pet. Leave the family pet at home. It's going to be hard to say goodbye, and that's fine, but they are not permitted in the hall, and we don't want to leave them in a hot car either. But it happens every move-in at multiple halls where they'll check in with the dog on a leash, and it doesn't occur to them that the dog's not going to be able to come with you. And so that's my big suggestion.
Okay, good advice. Good advice. Now, what if they need a special accommodation? What if there's something medically or otherwise that they need? And you mentioned the family pet, but other animals, what are our rules around that?
So we work in concert. I say we as University Housing, we work in concert with the Office of Accessibility Services. And if a student needs an accommodation, whether it's mobility or whether it's, we talked about fridges earlier, we do approve accommodations for extra fridges, whether it be for medicine or like a kosher situation. We allow service animals in the buildings. We allow emotional support animals in the buildings, but it has to be approved through the Office of Accessibility Services. And there's never, going to be a situation where it's approved and the Office of Accessibility Services wasn't involved in it.
So at this point, we actually have a little game for you. So our game is called Does It Dorm? So which items are allowed in a residence hall? And I'll say the name of an item, and Joe or Johnny are going to say it's allowed or it's not allowed. So, and if it's not allowed, what's an alternative? So, air fryer, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yes.
As long as you use it in the kitchen.
Yes.
Okay. Speakers.
Yes.
Good with speakers.
We just talked about it, but pets.
Pets, you can have a fish.
You can have a fish.
You can have a fish.
Okay.
A limit of a 10-gallon tank. So we don't want an aquarium. But you can have a fish.
have a fish.
I would also suggest that you bring the fish home with you during breaks and don't, just leave it for itself.
Which I've seen.
Well, rest in peace to those fish. So if you bring a fish, make sure you're taking care of it. TV, thumbs up, thumbs down.
TV, we're good with TVs, and we have TVs in all the lounges.
Is there a size limit?
There's no size limit, but
Be smart.
But a heads up, the halls, we do not have cable. And so, we have Wi-Fi and we have Ethernet, and you can connect to your, YouTube TV account or Hulu TV or Netflix, whatever you want to do. But you're not going to screw in a coax cable and get a channel.
Okay.
It's difficult also to mount them on the wall, so nothing too crazy.
Yeah, and so be aware it's going to take counter space then
Yes.
if you can't mount them.
It's going to be tough to hold a TV with a command strip.
Yeah.
The command strips are amazing, but they're not there yet. What about a bicycle?
Bicycles are permitted.
Okay.
We just do not want them to obviously ride them in the hallways.
Where do they store their bicycles? They're not storing them in their residence hall room.
So,
Or do they?
No, they do.
They
So
do.
they are able to if they're not locked up outside. The majority of students don't lock them up outside.
Okay, they bring them in the hall.
I will add that that's only for bicycles that don't have any kind of motor.
Okay.
Any motorized vehicle has to be kept outside the
So
residence.
electric scooter, electric bike, outside.
They're fire hazards.
Fire hazard. What about a shelf? And is it freestanding? You mentioned hutches. They should probably bring some additional storage. Shelf?
Definitely.
Yeah, shelf
Yes,
is
thumbs
great.
up.
Shelf is great. We have plenty of folks who bring kind of assembled wire shelving, or they'll grab a wooden shelf or something. Those additions that people make to their desk spaces. We also see some things that go over the mini fridge, and kind of they'll put a coffee machine there, and it kind of becomes a little espresso station. Yeah.
Desktop computer.
Yeah.
Thumbs up? Okay.
More than welcomed.
More than welcome. Do students need a computer of some kind, laptop or desktop? Like, from your advice, Johnny, is that a good thing to consider bringing?
I think in 2025, going through college without some sort of laptop or desktop would be very difficult.
All right, good advice. Well, I think they passed. They did a great job. Thank you. So next segment is Dear Amy, and we do this every episode, and I have some questions that were written in, and so I'm going to rely on my guests to help me answer these. So how are our residence halls made safe, and what are our safety protocols that are in place?
So One of the things you mentioned earlier was all of our residence halls are locked 24/7. And the people who have access to that hall are just the folks that live there. So if you live on campus and you live in Landis and you want to visit your friend who lives in Wildwood, you're not going to be able to swipe into Wildwood and go visit your friend. They're going to have to come down and get you and bring you up to their space. We have 11 hub desks across campus that are operated 24/7 by a combination of our desk assistants and our resident assistants. And we also have them doing rounds overnight. And so we'll do usually about 3 to 4 sets of rounds throughout the night, and we'll kind of vary the time frame. And those rounds are really just building walks and just kind of maintaining the safety and security of the building, and ensuring that we're putting eyes on all the situations and making sure the doors are secured. A couple other things. I could keep going. There's so much.
Very safe.
We also have a strong relationship with our police department. One of my roles is coordinating our relationship with the Adopt-A-Cop program. So every residence hall has a police officer assigned to that hall.
What is your advice? How can I make my dorm room feel like home? What are the essentials I need to bring so I am comfortable?
Great question. For me, mattress topper.
Mattress topper.
Yes,
Okay.
making your bed like your little private oasis, you know, like after a long day of class and doing whatever else, you're exhausted, you want to collapse into a nice soft bed. So getting a really thick mattress topper can really change the game.
Okay.
I would suggest your own lighting, and the reason I would do that is because, you know, we just have very aggressive LED lights just in the middle of the ceiling, and a lot of people enjoy a softer light.
So lamps,
reading lights, floor lamps. We see a lot of string lights throughout the rooms too. We have students who make it their personal challenge to never use the light switch, just because they want that softer light.
And you also have, if for those watching that are very competitive, a decorating competition, and you can win some serious prizes if you win. Is that right? I know I follow you on social media.
We do. So we do a lot of monthly door decorating competitions where you'll walk through the halls and you'll see doors decorated for Halloween. You'll see them decorated for the holiday season. You'll see kind of spring break / spring themed doors. And folks really go all out decorating their doors.
But you also give them points if they decorate the inside really impressively as well. So you can use your creativity that way. And it's not on the first day. You wait a while
Yes.
so you can ship all the things you need
Yes.
or go to the local Target or Walmart.
Be on the lookout for the best room on campus opportunities that we run, and it's generally towards the latter half of the fall semester.
So they have several months
Yes.
to gear
yeah,
up
we
for
get you
this.
plenty of time to get your room set up, and then you could win pretty neat stuff, as much as like, you know, a nice Keurig coffee machine. We don't just give you a t-shirt. You know, we try to make it worth your while.
Very good. Well, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
It was wonderful chatting and educating those of you watching on what it's like to live on FSU's campus. So don't forget to follow Connect with Hecht, your guide to everything student life at Florida State University. And don't hesitate to call in or write in with your details of what you'd like us to cover next.